The tension in the Pickett household was palpable. John Pickett stood in the living room, his voice raised in frustration as he confronted his wife, Sam. "All you think about is fighting, Sam," John yelled, his hands gesturing wildly. "This is a chance for us to be different. No more war. Think about Katie. Imagine a world with a bigger purpose. The possibilities are endless." He pointed upstairs, where their young daughter, Katie, was quietly packing her school bag. Sam, her face hardened with resolve, shot back, "John, we'll be slaves. Have you seen what they've done to DC? We'll be sacrificing everything that makes us human. Our creativity, our individuality, our freedom. And for what? To serve some ET-looking space Hitler?" She stormed past him into the kitchen, grabbing a small lunchbox adorned with haphazardly placed Dora the Explorer stickers. John followed, his tone pleading. "Don't you think we've seen enough war, Sam? What's happening in DC is because we shot first. We started this conflict." Sam paused, her hands trembling as she filled the lunchbox with snacks. "We deployed to the same shithole together, John. Do you want to bring that to our streets? To everywhere? Think about Katie." John spread his arms wide, his body language begging her to understand. "And I'd do it all again. I'd deploy to the Thraxian homeworld if it meant keeping Katie free." Their voices rose, the argument teetering on the edge of irreparable damage. But before either could cross that line, a small, trembling voice broke through the tension. "Are you going away again, Mommy?" Both parents froze, their anger melting into concern. John moved toward the staircase, his voice softening. "Of course not, sweetheart. Nobody's going anywhere." Katie stood at the top of the stairs, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "You really mean it?" Sam rushed up the steps and wrapped her daughter in a tight embrace. "No, darling. Mommy's staying right here with you. I'm not going anywhere anymore. I've got a different job now." Katie nodded, her small frame relaxing in her mother's arms. John exhaled deeply, retrieving Katie's lunchbox and backpack from the counter. "How about we put all this silly talk behind us? I heard at school you're doing something exciting today." John forced cheerfulness into his voice, pushing aside his worries. Katie's face lit up. "That's right. We're making a huge alien poster with everyone." She bounded down the stairs, her enthusiasm infectious. Sam watched her daughter with a mix of pride and unease. "Is that so?" "Yup. I'm going to go to Mars one day with them," Katie declared, slipping on her light blue shoes. John smiled, his heart swelling with hope. "That sounds absolutely exciting." Sam kissed John softly on the cheek, a silent reminder of her lingering frustration. "I left some lasagna in the fridge. I tossed your attempt at garlic chicken." John chuckled. "Hey, I tried. Good luck at school." As Sam and Katie headed out the door, John called after them, "Love you, girls." The door closed, but he heard a muffled, "Love you, Daddy," before the sound of their Honda driving away. John sighed, rubbing his face. Definitely going to be hearing more from her later. John grabbed the remote and sank into the couch, flipping through channels until he landed on the local news. The anchors bantered lightheartedly, but John's attention was drawn to the scrolling headlines at the bottom of the screen. Suddenly, the broadcast cut to a live feed. The American president, battered and restrained, was being tormented by Thraxian troops. The Thraxian insignia glowed ominously in the corner of the screen. John's heart sank as he watched the president endure the abuse. Switching channels proved futile, the same horrific scene played everywhere. The Thraxians had breached Washington, D.C., one of the most fortified locations on Earth. If they could do that, what hope did anyone have? The president's defiant act of resistance, lunging at his captor and taking him down in a burst of violence, struck a chord in John. Justice had come through bloodshed, and for the first time, John found himself accepting it. The broadcast cut out, leaving the anchors stunned and speechless. Then, without warning, a searing white light flashed through every window of the house. 3 seconds later, a deafening blast shook the foundation, shattering the windows and sending shards of glass cascading across the floor. "Fuck!" John threw himself to the ground, his hands clamped over his ears. He counted the seconds methodically, his military training kicking in. 26, 27, 2. Boom. The house shuddered violently, the sound of tinkling glass mixing with the low rumble of the blast wave. John scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. 28 seconds. 3-second blast wave. North, 5 to 6 miles. Fuck. He grabbed his keys and bolted out the door, barely remembering to lock it behind him. The streets were chaos. Neighbors spilling out of their homes, their faces pale as they stared at the ominous dust cloud rising in the distance. John sped toward Katie's school, his heart pounding. The radio crackled with breaking news. Breaking news. There was an impact in Thomasville, North Carolina. The Thraxian Empire has taken responsibility, stating they dropped a high-yield warhead on a breeding center, chosen for its low strategic importance as a response to increasing unrest around the world. The announcer's voice trembled. "The school, David. They hit a school." John's blood ran cold. He slammed on the brakes as he rounded the bend toward the school, the nauseating stench of charred flesh hitting him like a wall. The devastation was unimaginable. Small bodies scattered among the rubble, their tiny forms coated in soot and ash. Parents wandered the landscape, their desperate cries piercing the air. John joined the chorus, his voice breaking. "Sam! Katie! Katie! Sweetheart! Where are you?" Minutes felt like hours before a faint voice replied. "J. John." He spun toward the sound, his heart leaping into his throat. There, pinned beneath the overturned Honda, was Sam. "Sam!" He rushed to her side, but her agonized scream stopped him cold. "Stop, stop, John. I'm stuck." Her lower half was crushed beneath the car. John's eyes darted around, searching for Katie. "Sam, where's Katie? I don't see her." Sam's voice broke. "I'm sorry, John. Katie's gone. She was next to the car when it happened. She's still there." John's world shattered. He started to rise, but Sam's hand gripped his shirt, pulling him back down. "Don't look, John. You can't help her." I called for her. "Our baby isn't talking." Tears streamed down John's face as the weight of the situation crushed him. "John, listen to me. Focus. You have to." Sam coughed, blood splattering onto his shirt. "You can't cry now, Marine. More people are dying. No more pain." Her hand fell limp, her eyes fading as her body went still. John stood, his body trembling with grief and rage. He closed Sam's eyes, his mind clinging to her final words. "Focus. Fucking focus, Pickett." He turned away, his eyes catching a glimpse of Katie's lunchbox. The Dora sticker melted into the wreckage. He couldn't look. He wouldn't come back from that. John shuffled toward his sedan, his shoulders slumped, his hands stained with blood. But with each step, his posture straightened, his gait becoming more determined. The flicker of rage in his soul grew into an inferno. He pulled out his phone and accepted an old group request. His fingers trembled as he typed. "Sam and Katie are gone. Get your bags. Come to Thomasville Elementary. We're going hunting." The responses came fast and furious. "This is Corey. I'll get the boys. The concerned citizen militia is with you. We're on the way. I saw what they did, John. I'm sorry, man. Give me 10 mics. I've got me, my brother, and 2 friends. We'll be there soon. Yo, 5.56 barely pens. Use green tip. Hashtag John's Militia. This is old bones. I've got 10K of 5.56 green tip loaded in the truck. Meet me at the school. Hashtag Liberty or Death." John opened the trunk of his sedan, lifting the spare tire cover to reveal a multicam assault pack with a 6.5 AR strapped to its side. Beneath it lay a ballistic plate carrier, dusty and forgotten. A small note was taped to the bag. "If you want peace, prepare for war." John smirked, a bittersweet ache in his chest. She always gets the last word in. He racked around into the chamber and turned toward the sounds of chaos, his eyes burning with resolve. The hunt had begun. John stood in the ruins of Thomasville Elementary, the weight of his rifle steady in his hands. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of destruction. Around him, the first members of what would become known as John's militia began to arrive. A beat-up pickup truck screeched to a halt, its bed loaded with crates of ammunition and weapons. A grizzled man in his 50s, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts, jumped out. "Old Bones reporting for duty," he said, tossing John a magazine of 5.56 green tip. "We've got enough to take down a battalion of those scaly bastards." Another vehicle pulled up, a minivan with a family of 4. The father, a middle-aged man with a nervous but determined expression, stepped out. "We don't have much training, but we're here to help," he said, handing John a pistol. John nodded, his voice steady. "Stick with the guys in Hawaiian shirts. They'll keep you alive." By the hour, the crowd grew. Men and women from all walks of life, veterans, civilians, even teenagers, arrived with whatever weapons they could muster. Some carried hunting rifles, others makeshift Molotov cocktails. They came from nearby towns, from neighboring states, and even from across the country. The message had spread like wildfire. John's militia was rising. A young woman approached John, her face streaked with soot and tears. "I'm Corey's sister," she said, handing him a radio. "He didn't make it, but he wanted you to have this. He said you'd know what to do." John took the radio, his jaw tightening. "We'll make them pay. For Corey. For Sam. For Katie. For all of us." John climbed onto the hood of a wrecked car, the crowd gathering around him. His voice carried over the murmurs of the crowd, sharp and commanding. "Listen up. The Thraxians think they can break us. They think they can take our homes, our families, our freedom. But they're wrong. Today, we show them what happens when they push us too far." He held up a map of the area, marked with Thraxian positions. "They've got a command center here about 5 miles north. It's heavily guarded, but it's the key to their operations in this region. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we don't stop until they're dust." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. John continued, "We're not soldiers. We're not an army. But we're something they'll never understand. We're pissed-off parents, brothers, sisters, and neighbors. And we're fighting for something worth dying for." He jumped down, handing the map to Old Bones. "Get everyone organized. We move out in 10. The march to the Thraxian command center was tense and silent. The militia moved in small groups, sticking to the shadows and avoiding patrols. John led the way, his rifle at the ready, his mind focused on the task ahead. As they approached the compound, the scale of the Thraxian presence became clear. The command center was a massive, alien structure, surrounded by towering walls and guarded by heavily armed troops. John signaled for the militia to take up positions. "On my mark," he whispered into the radio. The first shot rang out, a sniper taking down a Thraxian sentry. Chaos erupted as the militia opened fire, their bullets tearing through the alien defenses. The Thraxians retaliated with brutal efficiency, their energy weapons cutting down anyone who dared to charge. John moved through the battlefield like a man possessed, his rifle barking with every step. He took down Thraxian after Thraxian, his movements precise and deadly. But for every enemy he killed, 2 more seemed to take their place. "Fall back," John shouted, realizing they were outmatched. "Regroup at the rally point." The militia retreated, dragging their wounded with them. As they regrouped in a nearby forest, John assessed the situation. They had taken heavy losses, but they had also dealt a significant blow to the Thraxians. "We can't win this with brute force," Old Bones said, bandaging a wound on his arm. "We need a new plan." John nodded, his mind racing. Then it hit him. "Their power source," he said. "If we can take out their generators, we can cripple their operations." Under the cover of darkness, John and a small team infiltrated the Thraxian compound. They moved silently, avoiding patrols and disabling security systems. The generators were located deep within the complex, guarded by a squad of elite Thraxian soldiers. John signaled for his team to take up positions. "On my mark," he whispered. The team struck with precision, taking down the guards before they could react. John planted explosives on the generators, setting the timer for 5 minutes. "Let's move," he ordered, leading the team back to the exit. But as they reached the surface, they were met by a Thraxian commander, a towering figure with glowing eyes and a voice like thunder. "You think you can defeat us, human?" the commander sneered. "You are nothing but insects beneath our feet." John raised his rifle, his voice cold and steady. "Maybe, but even insects can sting." He fired, the bullets tearing through the commander's armor. The alien roared in pain, collapsing to the ground as the explosives detonated behind them, the shockwave knocking John and his team off their feet. The Thraxian command center was in ruins, its power source destroyed. The militia regrouped, their spirits lifted by the victory. But the cost had been high. Too many lives lost, too many families shattered. John stood amidst the wreckage, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. He looked out over the battlefield, the faces of his fallen comrades etched into his memory. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice carrying over the silence. "They think they can break us. They think they can take our world. But they're wrong. Today we showed them what happens when they push us too far. And we're not done yet." The militia cheered, their voices rising in defiance. John turned to Old Bones, a grim smile on his face. "Get everyone ready. We've got a war to win." As the sun rose over the horizon, John's militia marched forward, their resolve unshakable. For Sam, for Katie, for all of humanity, the fight for Earth had only just begun.